Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Union County Public Schools Board of Education Finance Committee. I call the meeting to order. All members of the committee are present. I need an approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next up is approval of the minutes from the February 22nd and March 1st Finance Committee meetings. We can do them together.
So move.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next up is the superintendent's fiscal year 23 budget proposal. Shauna.
Okay, so everyone can see the screen, correct? All right.
Yep.
Okay, so these are our initial priorities that we've pulled together from stakeholder groups and multiple meetings we've had with parents, students, staff, from teachers, principals. We've gone through the whole grouping of superintendent advisory councils to pull together this information. So my slides aren't advancing, are they? Ah, there we go. So we're going to go through some funding assumptions, the budget priorities, the operating requests, the capital request, and then a summary of just the different funding and the totals of what we will be requesting this year. So funding assumptions. This year we have a little better idea than we did in previous years because we do have a biennium budget. There still is the potential for ADM reductions for hold harmless. So potentially there will be some, if we don't hit our target of ADM enrollment, then there will be some reductions to our state allotments. Right now, we do not have our projections. I'm using our projections from the prior year for planning purposes until we receive those from DPI. Hopefully we'll receive those this week. We have a call later today with DPI. They had told us that we may receive those a week or so ago. So I don't know what the holdup has been, but once I have that information, I will share. Per current legislation, the salary increases for staff will be 2.5% for non-certified staff, or a $15 minimum, whichever is greater. If you all will recall, we did do quite a few of our non-certified staff to $15 already in anticipation of this minimum increase. The state step for certified teachers or anyone on certified scales will be on average 2.5%. That will vary based on the where you land on that scale, but on average it's a 2.5% increase. Right now, our benefit increases are about 5.5% combined. The new retirement rate for the FY23 school year will be 24.19%, and the health insurance is going to $73.97. So if you'll recall, right now the retirement rate is 22.89, and the insurance is $7,019. So that's a significant per full-time employee increase. Some of the things that we're going to be looking at and our priorities in our local budget request is our facilities and skilled trades comp study. The teacher assistants and facilities both were addressed previously. The facilities staff was our FY19, which was our initial year of our comp study. Teacher assistants were in FY20. Right now, it will be targeted with our surrounding markets and evaluating certain trades and facilities to ensure that we're right at market. And then with teacher assistants, I know there's been some discussion in some of our surrounding districts to increase their minimum pay. So we're looking at the same for them. Assistant principals supplements are also another category that we've been requested to review. The assistant principal pay right now on our supplement schedule has not been adjusted since 2014. And right now as a state or within the state, we rank 31st with our AP supplements. The proposal to increase their supplement would bring us to right at 19, which is, quite a significant jump in our ranking in the state. I've also included the local supplement increase. As you'll recall, the county funded half of our last year's supplement increases for teachers, nurses, any of the local supplements that we requested last year. So I've included it, not knowing whether this needed to be part of what we were requested, or is this just something, funding that we will receive? So we've included that as well.
Okay, I don't think, and I know you're having ongoing conversations with the county, but they said last year when they approved our budget with the half, that they would give us the other half the next year. So I agree that I don't know if this should be part of our budget request or it's just part of what they already said that they were going to do.
We are meeting with, Dr. Houlihan and I have a meeting later this week on Thursday with county staff, and we're hoping to go through some of these items and discuss those with them so that we can really bring this together and ensure that what we're requesting and what's on the page needs to be there.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, I completely agree with Ms. Heintel on her position and statement. Absolutely.
I agree. And I guess, if you could find out, Shauna, I know that we lose a lot of skilled trades to the county. Do you know if we're competitive now with the county?
In some trades, I believe so. In others, we may still be lagging. The work we did originally on the first round is not going to be quite as intense or this round won't be quite as significant as the previous because we just have a few that we've got to reevaluate. And our biggest competitor right now is the county. So we are using some of their rates and some of their current categories to evaluate where our staff has placed, especially in those areas.
Thank you. Okay.
Some continued local considerations, what we discuss annually. Anytime our funding increases or enrollment increases at charter schools, that line increases. The per pupil portion that is allocated for those schools and those students in those charter schools needs to be accounted for. As we all are experiencing, we are currently experiencing some inflation with our contracted services and non-salary purchases and contracts. So we've included some inflationary increases for our facilities and technology department to address some of that.
Okay.
We always have to address our state legislative benefits and salary increases. Some additional things that we've included this year is our secondary athletic programs, which includes our middle school athletic implementation, some security with the board based on some of our contentious topics that we've been discussing lately, targeted employee retention and recruitment efforts. As you all know, it's been a challenge this year, recruiting teachers and retaining people. And then some class size, some teacher allotments for class sizes. Class
sizes above the third grade, right? Not that.
In 4 through 12. The current legislation that requires us to maintain specific class sizes in K3 has impacted our upper grades. So we're looking at how can we level some of that out, and we've got some local teaching position requests. This is a graph that I normally do for you all just to show some of the enrollment numbers for charter schools and our projected enrollment.
Ms. Shauna.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Dr. Houlihan, what's your view of that last item, that teacher allotment needs specific to class size in grades 4 to 12? You got a good plan for that?
Yes, sir. I think really the other part of this equation is continuing to provide the level of enrichment services that we have: music, art, PE, foreign language. We do an exceptional job educating the whole child. And I think when you look at grades 4 through 12, that's a big need that we have because of the allotment schedule from the state and the class size law. All of that impacts what we can offer particularly in our middle and high school. So to sustain that level of excellence, I think that's another reason why we really need to address that.
Thank you.
So again, this is just a graph to show some of the enrollment information for our county as a whole. including our charter school enrollment, our projected enrollment. So like I said, right now I'm using projections from last year until I get some update. And once I update or get additional information from the state, we'll update this information as well. Now I'm going to go through some of our budget priorities. As always, we have to first ensure we sustain operation. We're investing in employees for retention efforts and recruitment efforts, program expansions, and investing in our future, which addresses our capital needs. Our operating budget, as we have gone through here, facilities and technologies need some increases just to be able to sustain and continue ordering and supporting the district. Liability and property insurance, there's not there's some fluctuation in the market right now. We feel confident that we could, with the ups and downs, we've got a minimal increase in the budget request this year to cover any unknowns in that volatility in the market. We've got our projected increases for our charter school payments, as well as we discussed, legislative salary and benefits, our market studies, some concern with the certified employees and staff on the state salary schedule in that 15 to 25 year mark. They currently do not receive any increase in that 10-year range on the state salary schedule. So we're looking to see what we might be able to do locally to address that. National Board Teacher Credentialing Initiative, that's one of the things we're looking at for recruitment and retention efforts. Some of the program expansions and new initiatives, our middle school athletic program implementation, some coaching stipends. Our cross-country and indoor track programs have grown in popularity across the district. So we really need to address those in high schools and ensure that we have coaches and assistant coaches to support that program.
Ms. Shauna, as a cross-country coach, I want to thank y'all. Appreciate that greatly.
Well, it sounds like you've done an excellent job increasing the popularity of this sport. Pre-employment drug screening. We are one of not very many districts that does not currently do pre-employment drug screening. So we wanted to look at moving towards that in the future. Facilities, our CIP projects, of course, our laptop lease program that is our recurring expense. Plus we do have right now, Jay's working on the replacements of our teacher and admin units. That lease is up and it's up for renewal. So he's working to see what kind of new 5-year lease rate we will get. So we've made a few adjustments in that lease program to account for that. So once his team is ready for that, we'll bring that back to you as well. And then our co-curricular, our annual support of the band program. So proposed operating budget, as we discussed, this puts the numbers to the page. Just to sustain operations, we're talking in the neighborhood of 2.5 million with all the items that we've discussed today, as well as investing in our employees. Again, salaries and benefits are top priority, and that's 8.7. The growth in charter school enrollment plus the increase that we're discussing here is going to increase our charter payments about $850. The implementation and the recurring costs for our middle school athletic program and the stipends for that high school program for the track program, $355,000 combined. So that has us at a total local appropriation of $124 million,
So
which is about 12.5 more than what we currently are allocating.
So last year, we had something where we talked about mandatory increases that we have to do. So can we, when we redo this presentation, can we put on there what we have to do?
Sure, I can do a slide similar with that where we had 2 columns. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Which shows the county and everybody, that it would show everybody what we're required to do based upon the state increases in the state budget.
Sure, I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you. Okay, what's next?
All right, so our proposed capital budget. Facilities committee will be meeting tomorrow to review the CIP. Currently, that's right at $19 million. The technology laptop lease program, as well as some cybersecurity and data recovery equipment that's been requested through technology, is going to, that technology services is right at 3.7 million. And then our 50,000 for co-curricular this coming year will be Cuthbertson High School on the rotation for the equipment and uniforms. That brings our total capital request to a little over 23 million. So when you pull all this together, currently we have $111 million in local operating. We have an $18 million current capital budget, which is a total county appropriation of $130 million. With the increases and changes that we've requested here today, or that we've included for our budget priorities, it's an increase overall of 17 million. Right now, again, I mentioned we would be meeting with county staff later this week. I'm using a projected increase similar to what we received this year of 5.5 million, which leaves 11 million, a little over, well, almost $12 million in additional funding requested. This is our 5-year combined chart, just to give you all a visual representation of our funding, capital and operating budgets over the years, and you know, how those all stack up compared to each other. We have some other information, you know, as we went through this process, there were a lot of there were several requests and identified needs. So we've put together a slide just to share with you all with some other funding that has been allocated to support some additional requests and needs throughout the county. Currently, we have allocated ESSER funds to our schools to support learning loss. As you all know, we've come to you a couple of times. You've approved some funding for them to use. We are allocating, again, some funding for temporary staffing to address academic planning. Dr. Houlihan will be meeting with staff, as he normally does, with principals at the beginning of the year. And we were going to discuss with them some of the needs they have in their building and see how we can help them address some of those needs. Currently, there's some academic needs. Dr. Houlihan mentioned in his presentation last night that middle schools and secondary education, we really need to be very strategic about how we address the learning in those middle and high schools. And so we're evaluating some different programs and some different things that we could do to help increase the achievement levels in both middle and high school. Classroom resources for the science of reading. Right now, all of our elementary teachers are going through letters training. They're going to need classroom resources to support that science of reading.
I thought that the letters thing was funded by the state.
So the training is funded through DPI. They're training all staff. The resources are up to the district to support. This is about $3,500 per classroom, which is 11. Right now we have 1,175 teachers currently going through letters training. So giving them those books and resources to use in the classroom to support that core instruction.
Okay, so it's $4.5 million for additional letters, and none of that is coming from the state. Are we required to do the rest, or is this just supplemental stuff that we would like to do? That's not a commentary on it. It's just a question.
I believe it's not required. I think the gap is the fact that the state is saying to our teachers, we're going to train you, but then it's up to you to have the resources to implement. And so the feedback that we've gotten is we need something consistently across all 30 schools to help with implementation of the training. And that's still being reevaluated. It's not a mandatory thing from the state. It's something that we would like to pursue.
Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Houlihan, in that pursuit what do you hope to accomplish from pursuing that? Since it's not required, you like to do it. What is it that's pushing you to want to do it? Sometimes when we know the heart of the matter, we can better understand the proposal.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to improve proficiency rates when it comes to reading and literacy. I mean, that's the big issue. As a district, pre-pandemic, we hovered around 70% proficient in grade 3. And while that's really significant, I think we have a lot more room to improve. And so a lot of the resources that this would provide would help our teachers who teach kindergarten, first, second, and third grade in particular, with those foundational skills for literacy. The ultimate goal is to improve the degree of proficiency rates of our kids, especially by the time they get to third grade.
Is this the I'm not trying to read Chair's mind, but maybe we're thinking alike. Is this the only pathway to accomplish that? Because I mean, in the great scheme of things, when you're talking about millions and millions, you can look at 4 and you look at 124, but still that's a nice price tag. Is there other vehicles that could get us there, or is this vehicle you all feel is a vehicle that could really get us there, especially since, say, the state is providing the training and then we just kind of add meat to the bones?
Right. Yeah, and we should probably, on all of that, numbers 1, 2, and 3, put draft or propose, because these resources.
I think the whole presentation's draft, right?
Correct. Yes, correct. But it's minor. There are about 4 or 5 different resources that staff are evaluating to come to whatever that number would be. So I don't anticipate that 4.1 possibly remaining that high. Staff is just kind of brainstorming and doing the research on various resources and programs that might be out there. So that's all subject to change as we get through the next month or so.
And I understanding that this is ESSER funds, right? That we're using the federal ESSER funds to do this, which is probably a great thing to do. But I'm always concerned about one-time funding, right? Because what happens, so is this going to be needed every time? Or is this something that once you do it, you're done, or what?
I think, like Dr. Houlihan mentioned, it depends on what resources we select. Of course, if it's classroom libraries and classroom resources that are books and things of that nature, those will remain in the classroom and available for students every year. We have classroom libraries now. I know many of you are reading buddies, those books in the Ziploc bags that they bring when, that they take back and forth. I see some of those type of resources as well being part of this purchase. Again, the intent of this is just to let you know there is a need out there. We've allocated at least some one-time funding for a one-time purchase, similar to what we have tried to do with these funds in the past.
Yeah, and
Okay.
honestly, I mean, the timing of this, to Ms. Heintel's point with ESSER funds, if we did not have ESSER dollars to support it, then I don't know what we do, honestly, because from the local end, where are we going to find another $4 million if that's what it is? So we'll continue to evaluate all of the resources that are in question. And obviously, we're going to come back to you all several times. This is not something that's going to be done in the next month or two. This is all still being evaluated.
And I will say that the state has in multiple, at multiple points, if they provide funding for something and it appears not to be sufficient, they're directing districts to use their ESSER dollars to support certain things.
And
So
I understand that. I do. I totally get. I'm still concerned about. So on one of the things that's here is sustained attendance payments in high priority schools. That was part of the EPIC grant, correct? So because the EPIC grant is coming to an end, we need to find money to do it. So this is what concerns me a little bit, is that we have a bunch of money, we're going to use it, and then what happens when that one-time money goes away? Does that become part of our operating budget? It's just a concern. Capital, operating, anything. We always talk about one-time money, but some of the one-time money becomes operating money.
Well, and again, this was an ask from those schools. This is less than what they're currently receiving from Epic. It's a way to kind of tear it down. So, you know, again, it was a request, and we wanted to evaluate and see if we had a way to help fund that.
Okay. I just think that we always have to look at the one-time money to say, well, once it's gone away, then we don't have the money to do it.
Yes.
Because I mean, our current ask is above, you know, what, $11 million from last year. So I'm just trying to think how we can do it, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I like where you're going. And that's why I asked the question, was there other methodologies to get there, which would
I
assuage
understand.
the concerns that our chair has. But I like where you're going. I want that. We just want to make sure that we're in a good position.
Me too. I agree with you. And letters has been, you know, the first year of it has been a little difficult for our elementary teachers. And it's been a lot of work. They've been using their optional work days, and they've been required to go in, and it's been difficult. So I just want to make sure that I'm hoping this thing works, because we put in a lot of work in it, and our teachers have spent a lot of time doing it.
Yeah, well, and two, you'll see here, we've got to sustain the training moving forward. So we are doing some things locally to train current staff to be able to train our new hires. My understanding from the state is this is a one-time. They'll do the bulk of your teachers and your staff in your schools right now, but it'll be district's responsibilities moving forward to support and sustain that training.
State mandates without funding.
You know, it seems to be my world.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just some things, again, that were addressed and discussed that we assigned and thought could be good ESSER funding items. But again, like Dr. Houlihan mentioned, we're still in conversation about a lot of these things, so we'll be coming back to you. Some additional one-time funding. So we discussed the middle school athletic implementation, and there's some items on this that will address that, as well as some refresh items. So right now, our school nutrition staff is operating with some very old laptops that are concerning to our technology team. And they normally have purchased these as they go when they need them. And they're at a point, as you all know, with some of their inability to generate funds, that they cannot make this purchase right now. So we have assigned fund balance for the purchase of laptops for all the cafeteria managers and central office staff to help refurbish and replace them and get them on a better replacement cycle.
If we can even get them, right?
I know, if we order them, maybe we'll have them by December. That was the concern as well with our teacher and admin units. So, you know, that's why they're working diligently to try to see what we can get.
Right. So the technology fees keep going up. We have to do something to address this so that we're not doing this.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, it just isn't working. I mean, we can't have a $500,000 hit every year for technology fees because students don't turn in their laptops or they break them over and over again. I mean, we used to have a fee that we had to pay for technology, correct?
Yes, it was $25 per student. And then, you know, based on your, you know, other information, you may or may not pay the full 25. There was some free and reduced.
Right.
That. So, but yes, it was a $25 per student fee. That has been discussed whether we re-implement that or not. Right now, without doing something to recuperate some of the funding and address what the technology staff needs to replace, you know, we're going to get into a situation where we're not going to have enough laptops for students or during testing, or, you know, there won't be any spares when one breaks and those kind of things.
And that's the other issue, right? So Dr. Houlihan, can you talk in your superintendent groups about what other districts do with technology fees?
Absolutely. And this is something that Mr. Parker and I and and Dr. Breedlove have talked also. We're going to go back to our principals as well to get additional feedback in terms of fees. So I agree. We've got to do something different because we can't have a hit every year. But we also need to make sure that when parents and families get the information that that they owe something, typically on your report card and other kinds of situations, you're told you owe a fee or an amount because of a damaged device or a lost device. We really need the parents also to help us support that. So we'll continue to evaluate that, and I'll certainly ask our regional superintendents how they handle that.
I really think we have to come up with some sort of answer to this because it's getting bigger and bigger. So thank you. Okay, so that's the
And
end.
then funding for athletics. So the middle school athletic implementation is going to have some one-time expenditures related to facilities and some equipment and, you know, some one-time expenses that we felt were a good use and assignment of fund balance to address those concerns. So again, it's been quite some time since we have been able to build a budget that had any one-time funding such as fund balance in it. So, you know, these are definitely items that would qualify for those one-time purchases. And that's all I have. I know we've addressed questions as we went. So, you know, just, am I still sharing?
No.
So, you know, if there's any other questions that I can answer or any other concerns, again, this is just our first draft view. We'll continue to work through this as I get more information from the state and other areas. We'll continue to refine this request for your review and approval at a later date.
Okay.
Great job. Great job.
Next item is transportation.
Yeah, so in the SPTT committee meeting tomorrow, the transportation staff will be doing a presentation regarding a pilot program that was included in legislation this year. There were, I think, 24 districts that were included with funding to support a pilot of the TIMS, a replacement program for TIMS. Our staff's been working to review and do demos with vendors, and they are ready to make a selection. So we're requesting that once they present that at SPTT and make that selection, we can continue moving forward and submitting the documentation to DPI necessary to participate in the pilot and receive the funding.
Do we have the funding yet?
No, we have to complete this process. It requires signatures from me, Dr. Houlihan, and Ms. Merrill for us to submit to DPI so that they'll release those funds to us.
And this is not going to be like the accounting thing where they took the money
No.
away after they got into it, because
Well, yeah, so, you know, the districts that were included in the original modernization project still have funding, but new schools couldn't come on board, and there was a little bumpy road there at the beginning.
Yes.
The funding is there and allocated.
Okay, good.
And
Okay.
so we should be good.
Okay. And these say action items, but they're not really action items, right? Or do we have to approve the Smart Bus pilot program?
Well, because of the action that SPTT is going to take, I put it under action for you all for the funding piece. If you want it to come out of action from
We can send this. Yeah, we can do that.
So I mean, it could go from you all to SPTT.
Just bit, right?
Yeah.
But for 2A, we're not doing action, right? This is still a work in progress.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I need a motion to approve from finance the Smart Bus pilot program and send it to SPIT.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye, thank you, 4-0. Okay, next is the COVID relief funding update, and that's just for informational.
Yeah, so I added a few programs that we're currently in the process of potentially applying for and evaluating. And as we receive those dollars, they'll start showing up. But most of these are now competitive, what they call competitive applications. So you may have an allocation, but you submit your plan, just depending on whether or not you can use it. As I've told you all in the past, some of these dollars are allocated for specific, such narrow things. Sometimes we can use them and sometimes we can't. So, we evaluate each one and are definitely taking advantage of every bit we can.
Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 26th, but stay tuned because we'll probably have something before that. So
Yeah.
we'll go
So
from there.
maybe, I know in our calendar and our timelines, we have some work sessions and potentially a joint meeting with the county. So we'll start working on some dates and send those to you all to start, or to Miss Merrill to start organizing and seeing if we are having a joint meeting, when that might be. Spring break always falls right in the middle of our budget process, which always makes it a little challenging. So we'll try to work around that.
Okay.
Donna, some of these things that we've used these ESSER funds for, like a good squirrel, are we putting aside some nuts for later when these things disappear? Are we, it may not be a major sticky on the wall, but are you thinking of creative ways, you and Dr. Houlihan, to adjust to a life beyond ESSER? Because a lot of times these ESSERs have really come in and did some good stuff. But as the chair always says, where's the next batch of money going to come from? Are we being proactive in that area?
Yeah, we always use the opportunity when we receive federal dollars to evaluate and collect data on what works best and what doesn't, so that we can bring to you all if we do want to include or do shifting of current programs to do something that works better for our district. So we're in a perpetual evaluation of programming to ensure that we stay the best at what we do. So yeah, it's nice to have funds that you can utilize for a period of time to do that without having to increase your current budget and then make best decisions based on that data.
And you, Dr. Houlihan, your view of that?
I agree with Ms. McMahon. I think the only thing I would add is when you're considering the amount of funding that we have received, anytime you talk about sustainability is going to be a challenge. There will be, similar to what Ms. Heintel said with grant funding, which is what this is. Once it goes away, we're left kind of fitting the bill on what do we do next. And the pot is only so big from the local end. So there will be things that we can benefit from because of ESSER funds that are going to have to be communicated and known that it's one time and it's part of that road to recovery from the pandemic. There will be items that we cannot sustain. And we've had to communicate that time and time again. So we are working on evaluating those items that we think are sustainable and we can continue. We have 2 more years of ESSER funding. So that'll be a big conversation for us a year from now, and especially 2 years from now.
We have all the funds from ESSER right now, but we have to use it within the next 2 years, right? There's no more money coming.
Right. I have a grant. Well, there's
Right.
one portion that expires this year.
Okay.
Another portion expires next year, and then we have some in 2024.
I just continue to be worried about what happens in 2 years because, and I was worried about the EPIC grant thing. And so right now we're dealing with one of the EPIC things that they want to continue, and not everything's going to be able to be continued because we're not going to have the money to do it.
And Madam Chair, I want to thank you for your leadership during these tumultuous times as far as the Finance Committee has been concerned. You have kept the ship afloat. You've guided us through turbulency during these times. So I just want to take a moment just to commend you for working with Shauna and Dr. Houlihan off net to get these types of things done. So thank you.
I appreciate that. It's all Shauna and Drew. So, but thank you. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Move. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.